And off we go here with 7 laps remaining. Mikey de Jong with a good getaway, of course, on his go. Sorry, folks, I believe we ran into some technical difficulties of some sort. I'm not too sure what may have caused trouble with the stream. I really thought we were still going. All my things on my end were telling me that we were still streaming, but I believe we were down for a good portion of this race. I want to apologize for that. But back underway we go here for the finish, and of course, it's Mikey de Jong with a good getaway here, but Boryoshi already reeling him in to some extent. About half a second of a gap between them, with Jackson Altman kind of falling back a bit off the start on those soft compound tires that he switched to during the safety car that we just had. And it's Mikey de Jong already building himself all out about a 1 second gap to Boryoshi in P2. And it's game on between these top 3. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer hanging right there with them, though, within 1 second of Jackson Altman. Of course, plenty of time left for him to be able to fight for a podium position here. Teammate of Jackson Altman, of course, Jamie Knock, having incurred a 3-second penalty for track limits violations. His race is all but bottled at this point, unfortunately. Jackson Altman taking a peek up the outside of Boryoshi. Does not quite have enough to make it work through the chicane, though. Mikey de Jong already building himself out about a 1.5 second gap to Boryoshi. He is off and running. Jackson Altman now pulling up the inside of Boryoshi. Along he goes and into P2 for the time being. Of course, Boryoshi opting to go onto those medium compound tires during the safety car, with de Jong and Altman both opting for the soft compound. And if nothing else, it was an interesting strategy call, of course. Jackson Altman himself finding himself in a bit of a pickle, I'd say. Taking an early pit stop, or an early second stint, opting for the medium compound tires that I believed he was looking to make last until the end of the race, with still about 17 laps to go. Of course, was saved by the good graces of the safety car, has opted instead to finish the race on these soft compounds we see him on now. And it's game on. It is now his turn to try to chase down Mikey de Jong, who has now built the gap out even a tenth further to 1.6. And at this point, of course, this is de Jong's race to lose. Boryoshi and Jackson Altman seemed like they will be scrapping for P2, if nothing else. Maybe Jamie Knock might have something to say about it, though. Really thought Jonathan Jurgensmeyer would make more noise in this fight, but having lost out to Jamie Knock for the time being, and of course will finish ahead of him to some degree if he can manage to stay within 3 seconds. Oh, but he cannot, as Mr. Brightside in the Haas has made his move around Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, who falls to P6, Brightside up into P5 for the time being. Mentioning again that Jamie Knock is sitting on that 3-second time penalty, so could be a position to be gained here for either Brightside or Jurgensmeyer come the end of the race if they can manage to stick it out. Gap now from Mikey de Jong to Jackson Altman in P2, almost 2 seconds. Boryoshi sticking right there with Altman, though, fighting for that P2 position. Boryoshi now creeping up onto the tail of that Alpine. Not quite enough pace to make a move there. Backs out a bit going into the chicane. Did not want to push the issue very much there. Knows it's a bit of a dicey spot on the track to try to make a move. However, it's given Jackson Altman the chance to run free here with that P2 position. In the late stages of this race, only 3 laps remaining. And de Jong with nothing but room to breathe up front. Wow, camera does not even include any cars behind him. Well, until now, of course. Gap still hovering right around 2 seconds for De Jong. Jackson Altman fighting tooth and nail to hold on to that P2 position with the Ferrari breathing down his neck. Local caution out in Sector 1. It seems that we've had an issue. It's Jonathan Jurgensmeyer who's found himself off and just takes an early exit, unfortunately. He will be paid with points regardless. I believe, he has raced, 80 or 90% of the race distance, so he should score a point for that P10 DNF. However, only time will tell. Oh, and it's Julius Duku who's had himself a bit of a moment there in P7, gives the chance for Proxy to move up. Time penalty assessed there to the Aston Martin of Andrew Davis for track limits violations. Oh, and these penalties may really muck up some of this finishing order. We've yet to see, of course, Mr. Brightside in the Haas doing really well to stay within 3 seconds of Jamie Knock ahead. May find himself in P4 come the end of this race. Oh, and it's Boryoshi making the move up the outside into turn 1 of Jackson Altman with the help of DRS, of course. And I bet for these last 2 or so laps, these two will just be leapfrogging, and it's just a matter of who's in the right place at the right time come the end of this race. Lead from P2 to gap from P2 to P1, now up to 2 seconds. Seems a bit insurmountable given the situation with only about 2.5 laps remaining in this race. And man, if Suzuka does nothing else, it provides, I must say. Always a great race here. Very technical track, and it really separates the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. You really have to be on it to be able to wheel it around and come home with good points, as we see a good chunk of the grid not being able to finish. Had some early incidents, of course, as you probably saw, between the Alpines, most notably, currently find themselves in P3 and P4 respectively, but they did find each other very quickly off the start and almost collected each other, sent each other right off. However, they did recover and managed to make the most of it, it seems, as Jackson Altman, currently fighting for that P2 position, however, has dropped back at least a small bit from Boryoshi for the time being. Over the line they go for the penultimate lap. Gap to De Jong now 0.3 shorter than it was previously, it looks like. Boryoshi doing a bit of work to try to reel him in, but it's tough to tell if it'll be enough. I don't imagine it will, honestly. Gap still coming down though, now about 1.6. Mikey De Jong losing about half a second of his lead through that first little section, of course, the S's. And it'll be another retirement here. This time, it'll be the Williams of Julius Duku. Over a third of the grid already having bowed out. It is game on from here. Closest gap on track is that between Andrew Davis in the Aston and Mr. Brightside, currently doing really well to cleanly hold on to that P5 position. After some early incidents, he was catapulted up into P2 or P3, if only for a moment, had himself a bit of an off, and just tumbled down the order from there, but has done really well to fight his way back, scratching tooth and nail for every point he can muster here. Andrew Davis looking to make the move on him around the outside, though, backs out of it for the time being. However, he's all over the rear of that Haas. Over the line they'll go, looking to get a bit of a slipstream here. Of course, he will have DRS assistance. Brightside will force him around the outside. Andrew Davis will breeze right through, up into P5. He goes, of course, though, sitting on time penalties of his own. Final lap, though, here in Suzuka. And it is Mikey De Jong, of course, who's just been keeping it so clean and so tidy the whole way through up to this point. This final lap, of course, presented to you by SimLeaguePro.com. ARC's premier league management partner, SimLeague Pro, is built for drivers and community managers to create leagues and races that can be enjoyed by all. Of course, it's a great resource that we all use here in ARC to be able to get a full leaderboards table, to get a full roster, whatever it may be. Me as a commentator specifically, information that I need, it's a great help. So we want to thank SimLeague Pro, of course, for sponsoring this one. And over the DIVEBOMB Motorsport finish line, Mikey DeYoung goes, taking the win here in Suzuka with Boryoshi close behind. Jackson Altman will round out the podium. Once again, these three, will be standing atop the field. Jamie Knock getting the best of it, not really having to outrace his penalty by much. He will maintain his P4 position at the end. Mr. Brightside, though, moving his way up over Andrew Davis into P5. But once again, it is Mikey DeYoung, of course, coming away with the win here in Suzuka. And I must say, bit of an unpredictable race, if nothing else. I mean, of course, we saw the virtual safety car come out on the very first lap of this race, and I'm sure from that point, drivers were probably expecting plenty more trouble to be coming as the race progressed. However, did not see very much until about lap 17 or so, when the full safety car was deployed for a much larger incident, bunched the fields right back up, and at that point, it could have been anybody's race to win. However, it was Mikey DeYoung's all along. We just didn't know it yet. Another great race here for ARC. It is Mikey DeYoung coming away with the win and the fastest lap. Boryoshi will take the second podium position for Ferrari. Jackson Altman rounding out the podium for Alpine. Teammate Jamie Knock holding on for P4, barring penalties. A few more penalty assessments down the grid have shaken up the finishing order a bit, with Mr. Brightside holding on for P5. Andrew Davis will move down to P6. Proxy, newcomer to the ARC F1 series, will score decent points haul here on his first time out for the AlphaTauri. P7 for him, with teammate Deshaun Davidson getting P8. A few more DNFs and whatnot down the grid, as Julius Duku was not able to make it last till the end. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer as well will have to hope that he'll score points in that P10 position, but it's Matthew Stott and AJ Knickel who will be finishing out the grid. Well, just want to double check to see who we've got here for our podium finishers. I think we're waiting on Boryoshi, but for the moment, we'll start with Jackson Altman. Jackson, walk us through your race to some extent. I mean, that early trouble that you found yourself in with teammate Jamie Knock on the very first lap, I believe the very first corner, or maybe the second, getting into the side of each other, I really thought that was kind of it from there. Your race looked to be a bit kaput, but thankfully you both recovered well enough to hold on and fight it out to the end. Did you think there would be any change in strategy or any change in, racecraft from there after that? Because I noticed that you started on the soft compound tires. I'm sure you were just ready to run from that point. Did that really bottle your strategy at any point?
Yeah, I started on the softs because in qualifying I did 2 laps on softs, but my final lap, I accidentally used softs. So I had 2 new sets for the race. So yeah, I started on the softs hoping I could pass the top 2 on hards, and my teammate went wide and pushed me off. But yeah, it was just rebound from there.
Yeah, you seem to be fighting off the back foot from that point forward. Are you happy at least with the result you managed to get, even because of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a podium. Obviously, I want to win, but back-to-back podiums is good.
All right, next up, I believe we have Boryoshi in here. Boryoshi, I mean, another cracking race from you, as always. Smooth operator, if nothing else. I want to ask, though, some strategy calls that you made seem to leave us a bit confused over here in the booth. Of course, opting for that hard compound to finish the race out until you were graced by the safety car late in the race. Was there any real, What was the thought process to that strategy call, if nothing else?
To be honest, I usually always just do medium hard because I don't know what the right strategy is. So the hard looked good from what I can see on Mikey's car, and it felt good when I put it on. To be honest, like I knew that the other two on mediums were going to have pace towards the start of the stint, and if I could just like hang around, I'd maybe have some more grip towards the end. And then yeah, when the safety car came out, I'd used all three set of softs in quali, which I don't usually do, so I was kind of forced to take the medium.
Oh,
Um, and it was kind of I thought it was probably borderline whether it would be soft or medium, but yeah. Anyway, the softs that I used in quali I wasted because I invalidated my lap, so
yeah,
it was actually quite a ragged day for myself.
you were certainly the odd man out off that last safety car restart, of course, with De Jong and Jackson both being on the soft compound tires that they still managed to have laying around. You on the medium compound, I was really fearing for you, but you did manage to play leapfrog with Jackson long enough to hold on to that P2 position. Congrats, mate.
Appreciate it.
Kicking it over to our race winner, second week in a row, Mikey De Jong. Mikey, walk us through it, man. I mean, just straight off the start, by turn 4 or 5, you had already built out the gap to about 1 second. Of course, plenty of trouble going on down the rest of the grid. AJ crashing out, pulling out the VSC. But, I mean, the Alpines getting into each other, would that just sort of played right into your hands? Did you really have any doubts of how things would go after that?
Uh, well, after I saw that, I mean, I saw that Boriashi was second, and I knew that he was gonna be quick on the Ferrari, and knowing that he was on the softer compound tire. But I must disagree with Boriashi about the hard tire. I did not like driving on those. It was sliding all over the place. I was very surprised I was able to get that pace going. But yeah, anyway, when I went to mediums, I planned to drive away uh, from Boriyoshi, and then uh, hope I hoped to finish about 5 seconds away. But that safety car kind of mix things up, and had I had to think of different tire strategies, and all I could think of was the softs. And I was very surprised that Boriashi went to the mediums, but it wasn't that bad of a call to go to the mediums because the softs were not that quick at the end anyway. So he would have had a big shot, and if he wasn't fighting uh, P3 on that moment. Altman.
Well, man, another mark of consistency for you, the Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman, coming away with another win here in Suzuka. Great race, boys, as always. I kind of had a feeling I'd be speaking to you guys again after seeing how last weekend went.
Oh, that's good.
It's been a
Thanks
tough
again,
season.
guys, for a great show. Quick sponsor shout out, of course. New this season, but we're moving right along with it. Thanks as always to DiveBomb Motorsport, ARC's premier partner. The whole reason that this all exists in the first place. Collaborative new media project by motorsports fans for motorsports fans. Make sure you check out their website. Another shout out for SimLeaguePro.com, who sponsors our final lap of the race this season. They've done great work, of course, being a whole library of information of all things ARC related. It's the first, point of reference that I use as a commentator for finding out all the information about the grid any given weekend. So make sure you check them out, and of course, you're probably on there yourself if you're hearing this. SimWrap Market, iRacing's largest marketplace of professional level livery design templates, used all over ARC, of course, and all over iRacing in general. Make sure you check them out and see if there's anything you like on there. All right, and I believe that'll do it from here, folks. Thank you, of course, for tuning in to another great ARC Formula One race. We want to let you know that I believe this was the final race of this season. We will be cutting it short as we make a change of plans, and we will be moving forward instead with an equal setting cars season soon enough. but not quite soon enough for some of these drivers. I believe it's 5 weeks that you guys will have to wait to take another crack at it. So until then, we want to thank you guys as always for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Signing off.